Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you all? I hope you all are fine with the grace of Almighty Allah. So today we have this packet tracer activity 1.2.1.7 scaling network. So in this activity we will compare 2960 and 3560 switches. Okay, so in the part 1 what we need to do, we will compare layer 2 and layer 3 switches, and part 2 we will configure layer 3 switch and the router. So we will configure router and layer 3 switch. Okay, so in this activity what we will do it, so in this activity you will use a various command to examine 3 different switch topologies and compare the similarity and difference between 2960 and 3560 switches. So you will also compare the routing table of 1941 router and 3560 switch. So we will see step by step. Okay, let's start the activity and we can examine the further detail. In the part 1 what we need to do, we will compare the layer 2 and layer 3 switches. So what we need to do here, examine the physical spec of D1 and ASw-1. So where is our D1? So this is our D1 and this is AS1. Okay, so we will compare the physical spec of D1 and AS1. So the question is, each individual switch has how many physical interfaces? Each individual switches has how many physical interfaces? So if you will go to the D1, first we will go to the D1 and I will show you how many physical interfaces. By just bringing the mouse cursor you can see how many physical interfaces we have. So we have around 24 fast Ethernet and 2 gigabit, total 26 physical interfaces. Okay, so this is not a proper way. Okay, this is not a professional and the proper way to check the physical interfaces. How we can check the physical interfaces? Go to the CLI mode. Okay, and just simply type enable and write show IP interface brief. Okay, so you can see this is the proper way to check the interfaces. Okay, and here if you will see 23, 24, 25 and 26, you can see here 24, 25 and 26. These are the physical interfaces. Please don't get confused with this VLAN interface. This is not a physical interface, it's a virtual interface. Please keep it in your mind. So don't count this one. Okay, so up till here we have 26 physical interfaces. So answer for question number 1 is how many fast Ethernet and switch, how many physical interfaces we have? Can you tell me now? Just we have seen now. Okay, so each switch, individual switch, especially D1, we have 26 physical interfaces. Okay, so if you will go to the switch 1, which command we need to run to check the physical interfaces? Can you tell me now? Yes please. So we need to write show IP interface brief. This is the command. Just you can see here 24, so 26. So see here fast Ethernet 24, 25 and 26. Here please don't count this interface. This is a what I said before, this is a virtual interface, it's not a physical interface. I will explain you later on about this interface. Okay, so total how many interfaces in ASw-1? In ASw-1 we have 26 physical interfaces. Okay, so the first point is clear. So now the second point is, so how many fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet interfaces does each switch have? So we will see how many fast Ethernet and how many gigabit interfaces we have on each switch. So how we can see? Go to the switch, you can see 24 fast Ethernet. How many we have? 24 fast Ethernet and 2 gigabit interfaces of D1. So in the D1 you have 24 fast Ethernet and 2 gigabit interfaces. Okay, did you get me? Okay, now we can check here in this switch again the same. So how many we have fast Ethernet? 24 fast Ethernet. If you will just start counting from 1 to 24 fast Ethernet and 2 gigabit interfaces. Okay, so now this is clear. Now the second is list the transmission speed of fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet interfaces on each switch. Can you tell me what is the transmission speed of fast Ethernet? So fast Ethernet transmission speed is 10 Mbps to maximum it will go to 100 Mbps. Okay, in fast Ethernet it has 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps maximum, and the gigabit interfaces, the speed transmission speed is 100 Mbps, or we can say 1 gigabit per second, 1 GBS. Okay, 1 gigabit per second. So that is also clear. And now we can go for are either of the two switches modular in design? Another question is, are either of two switches modular in design? So you should understand first what is a modular design. So we have two type of switches, modular switches and fixed configuration switches. So the modular switches, we can say, because modular switches allow you to add expansion module into the switch as needed. Okay, but in the fixed switches you have the fixed number of ports. Typically you cannot expand it, so it means you cannot expand it. Okay, 1 minute, I think we cannot go to the physical interfaces. Here you cannot expand. You can see these are the fixed number of port, so you cannot expand. Okay, same like here, if you will go to the physical interface, you can see these are the fixed configuration switches, so you cannot expand the number of ports. Okay, if it is a modular switches, so modular switches you can add the expansion module into the switch if it need. Okay, so here we have fixed number of port, so we call this one is fixed configuration switches. So in our scenario, what is saying, are there any two switches modular in design? These two switches D1 and A1, no, they are not modular in design because they are fixed configuration switches, so we cannot add the port in it, so it means we cannot typically expand it. Okay, so now the third is B part. The interface of 3560 switches can be configured as a layer 3. Yes, layer 3, this is a layer 3. We can configure as a layer 3 interface by entering no switch port command. If you will type here, if any interface of this switch, like suppose you have a gigabit interface, if you will write no switch port command, so what it will do, it will convert that port into a routing port. Okay, into the interface configuration mode. So this allow a technician to assign the IP addresses and subnet mask to the interface. Yes, definitely, if you will write no switch port command, okay, on this multi-layer switch, what it will do, then you will be able to assign the IP address and subnet mask to the interface. Okay, it's the same way it configure on the router interface. So as you same way, you know, so what you are doing, if you are configuring a router interface, you can go to the gigabit interface of the router and assign the IP addresses. The same way you can go to the multi-layer switch here. Suppose you are here in the gigabit interface. Okay, you can see they assign the IP address. Why they assign the, how it can be assigned the IP address? First you need to write no switch port. Okay, so this gigabit 01, first you need to make this port as a routing port, then you can assign the IP address. Other than this, you cannot assign the IP address until and unless you will write a switch no switch port command. Okay, did you get me now? So in this way what we are saying, so this is correct, so no need to write anything, it's a correct statement. Okay, so what is the difference between layer 2 switch and layer 3 switch? Now try to understand this one, this is very important. What is the difference between layer 2 and layer 3 switch? So in layer 2 switches make a forwarding decision based on MAC address, okay, and we can say layer 2 address. Layer 2 mean data link layer of OSI model, data link layer of OSI, data link layer of OSI model. Okay, layer 2 simply do a switching, it cannot perform routing, it cannot do anything, it will do simply switching. Okay, now let's discuss little bit about layer 3 switching. Layer 3 switch work on layer 3 of OSI model. So what is the layer 3 of OSI model? That is a network layer, so it work on network layer. So it route the packet by using IP addresses. Okay, so this is the main difference. So layer 2 work on or maybe you can say make a forwarding decision based on MAC address, mean layer 2, but layer 3 switch make a forwarding decision based on layer 3, mean using IP addresses. So packet will be forwarded and routed by using IP addresses. Okay, now what is the difference between a switch physical interface and virtual interface? Can anyone tell me what is the difference between physical interface and virtual interface? Anyone can tell me now, please, now? So physical interface is used to connect end devices. Did you get me? The physical interfaces, so like mean this is your physical interfaces, FA0, 23, 22, these are the physical interfaces. If you will come here, so this is the physical interface. Okay, so this physical interface you connect the end devices. See here, this physical interface you connect the end devices. Okay, switch virtual interface is used to configure the switch with IP addresses, so it can manage remotely. So virtual interfaces here, if you will see here, I think we have the IP addresses with the, see here, yeah, in this case if you will come, so this is your virtual interface. So this is virtual interface is basically used to manage your switch remotely. Okay, so what is the difference between physical interfaces and VLAN interface? We can say the SVI, switch virtual interface. Okay, SVI is used to configure a switch with IP addresses, so it can manage remotely. So we can access this switch remotely from this PC or from other PC, we can manage. Okay, it's clear now. So we can go to the next here. On which layer do 2960 and 3560 switch operate? So this is 2960 switch and this is 3560 switch. Okay, so which layer this will operate? 2960 on which layer? As I told you before, so 2960 will operate on layer 2, on data link layer, na MAC address, because it will work on the layer 2 data link layer, MAC address. Okay, and 3560 switch operate on layer 3, the network layer, the IP addresses. Okay, now come to the this one, issue show run command to examine a configuration of D1 and ASw-1 switches. Do you notice any difference between them, D1 and, so we will see show run command. So we will see, is there any differences there? Okay, come to this one, enable show run. Show run, you can see the first difference is IP routing. You will not find this command in ASw-1 because this is layer 3 switch, so we enable the routing in layer 3. So this is the first difference you will find. So what is the first difference? You have the IP routing, mean layer 3 routing. Okay, and the second difference, you can say all these are the interfaces same like ASw-1. You can see 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all these are the interfaces. And the other difference you can see here, for this interface Gigabit 01 you write no switch port, because this port and this port you write no switch port because you assign the IP addresses. If this is not a switch port, then you can assign the IP address to the physical interface of the switch. Okay, and also Gigabit 02 is also no switch port. So what is the difference here? So first difference IP routing, and second difference is no switch port. Okay, and if you will come to the AS1, we will see we need to type this command show run. If you will see, no, we don't have such a command. If you will come down, you will not find, see, you don't have any IP addresses. You cannot assign, you did not write IP routing, you did not write no switch port command. Okay, it's clear. So now we can go to the next point. Display the routing table on both switches using show IP route command. Why do you think the command does not work on AS1 but work on D1? See, now first let me run this command show. What command we need to run? Show IP route. Okay, so I will write this command on D1 and I will show you. 1 minute. Show IP route. You can see it can run, and you can see the connectivity, because 10 and 11 it has a direct connection with through this Gigabit interface 01 you assign to this network is connected through this link, and this network is connected through this link. So the IP routing is enabled. Okay, and if you will come to the AS1, because the D1 is a layer 3 switch, because of that one we are able to write the show IP, we are able to configure the routing. Okay, but in this is layer 2, so show IP route. So you cannot run this command because it's invalid. Why it is invalid? Because it's a layer 2, it cannot perform a routing. Okay, please keep it in your mind. AS1 is a layer 2 switch, so it cannot perform a routing, but this D1 is a layer 3 switch, so it can operate on layer 2 as well as on layer 3. So we were able to perform the routing, we are able to configure the routing as well. Okay, so that point is also clear. Now we can move to the next point. So the next point is, first let me read this one. Up until recently, switches and router has been separate and distinct devices. Yes, of course, the term switch was set aside for the hardware device that function at layer 2. Router, on the other hand, are devices that make the forwarding decision based on layer 3 information. Of course, they are using a routing protocol to share a routing information and communication with other routers. So layer 3 switch such as 3560 can configure to forward the layer 3 packet. Yes, layer 3 as we have seen. Enter the IP routing command in the global configuration mode. Allow layer 3 switches to be configured with the routing protocol, thereby possessing some of the same capability as a router. Although similar in some form, switches are different than in many other aspects, but it will also perform a routing as well as it perform a switching, if you will see here. So this is a router, it only perform a routing, it cannot perform a switching. Okay, now this is just the brief description about layer 3 switches and the router. Now we will go one by one. We will see what is the next step. Open the physical tab of D1. So this is the D1 and R1. Do you notice any similarity between the two? Do you notice any difference between the two? First we will see what is the similarity and what is the difference in D1 and R1. Okay, D1 and R1. First we will go to the D1 and we will see the physical spec. If you will go to the physical spec of D1, you have, these are the fast Ethernet interfaces. This is a gigabit interfaces to gigabit. This is the console interface. If you will come closer and see, this is a console interfaces of D1. Okay, so console is there and gigabit is there. Okay, and if you will come to the router, go to the physical spec. Now you can see this is gigabit interfaces, gigabit 00 and 01. You can see these are the two gigabit interfaces. If you want to see little bit so these are the gigabit interfaces. Okay, zoom in, I will just show you, just one minute, I will just show you. So you can see here, this is gigabit 0 and gigabit, same like our D1. Okay, you have the console cable. This router has a console cable and also D1 have a console cable. So these are the similarities you can see. So gigabit plus console cables are the similarity in both D1 and router 1. Okay, but the second thing, the second point was, what is the difference? What is the difference between similarity is gigabit and console. In both switch router and the D1 multi-layer switch, we have this similarity. Okay, but what is the difference? The difference we can see here, we have the, see, it is a modular in design. What we can say, you can see we can remove this one and we can add some more serial link, or we can add some more gigabit interfaces as well. Okay, it is modular in design, we can add more modules. Okay, and the second thing is it has the console, it has the serial link. You can see here the serial link, but in D1 we don't have the serial link. Did you notice this one? And it also have the AUX, but the D1, I think we don't have the AUX. You can see, no, I will show you. This is the console, yeah, but we don't have what the difference is, we don't have the serial and we don't have the AUX. Okay, and it is fixed in module. Okay, it is a fixed configuration switch, not a modular switch. Okay, but this one is a modular in design, so you can remove and you can, it is locked, so because of that one we cannot, but you can remove and add some more module in it. Okay, so that's clear. Now we can go to the, okay, we can go to the next point. Issue show run command and examine the configuration of router 1 and D1. Okay, router, what difference do you see between the two? So the difference here, if you will see, to just let me remove this one. Okay, what is the difference you will see here? Show run. So we need to write this command, show run command, and we need to examine the configuration of D1. The first thing is you enable IP routing. Okay, but you don't need to enable the IP routing in the router. Okay, the second thing is, so you don't need to type no switch port command, because it is in order to make the routing and this physical interface as a routing port, so then you need to type no switch port command. Okay, so because it's a router, so the router no need to type this command on the router, only it need on the multi-layer switch in order to make this link as a routing port. Okay, routing means, so we can assign the IP address to this interface. Okay, now this is these are the two things you will not find in the router. Let me check now. Enable configure terminal, show run configuration. So this is the command. You can see we don't need IP routing, just directly see here gigabit 0100. You don't need no switch port command. If you will see here, just let me compare both together. I will type it here, see, and see, no switch port command is there. Here we don't need to write no switch port command in the router. This is router 1, this is the D1, you can see here. Okay, the second thing is the IPs are same, 10.01, 10.1 IPs are same. You can see we assign the IP same because it is not connected with each other, so you can assign the same IP. There is no harm in it. Okay, so the two things, first IP routing you need to enable in D1, and you need to write no switch port. This is the two difference. Okay, here you don't need to type those commands. So the similarity, you can say both have the same IP addresses. These are the similarities. So let me go to the next now. So we compare. So which command allow a D1, now this is the one, D1 to configure IP address on one of its physical interface? So which command? Just I explain you right now. So which command allow the D1 to configure the IP address? Which command? Can you tell me now? I will give you 1 second. Think about it. So which command allow the D1, this is a multi-layer switch, so you can configure the IP address on its physical interface? Which command? Yes, of course, you are right. Perfect, 100% right. So no switch port command, as you see here. So you need to type this command, no switch port command. If you type no switch port command, then you are able to configure the IP address on its physical interface, as I told you. So the answer is no switch port command. No switch port command, you can see no switch port command will enable to configure the IP address on its physical interface. Now we can go to the show IP routing command on both devices. Do you see any similarity on the difference between the two tables? Okay, we can see here. First we can write show IP route. So let me type here show IP route. Okay, if you will type this command, you will see, yeah, this is the routing. If you will see Gigabit 00, so it is directly connected. This network is connected through this one. Yeah, there is the routing, it is in the routing table. And now if we will go to the router 1, you will see show IP route. You can see here almost same command, directly connected, and this is the link local network address. Okay, so on this local link, this is the IP address. So it is not mentioned in our case in D1, but if you will compare, I will just show you the comparison. I will show you here. You can see the CC is same in both cases. If you will see C and both CC is same in this case, router 1 and D1, but here we have some extra information which are missing in D1. This is the local link address on this interface, local network address, I mean the local IP address of this link Gigabit 00. This is the IP address, so it is not showing in D1. Okay, now we can go to the next point. So show IP route, yes, this one finished. Now we can go for, now analyze the routing table of router 2 and D2. Okay, now router 2 and D2. So what is the evident now that was not in the configuration of router 1 and D1? So now we will see router 2 and D2. So we can check router 2, go to the CLI, enable show IP route. Okay, if you will come and you will see show IP route, the difference here you will find DD. What is this D? This D indicate what? Can you tell me now? D indicate that you configure the EIGRP routing protocol on this router 2. Okay, on this router 2 you configure the EIGRP. So this router learn this network 10 and 11 from the other router, or maybe it can be a multi-layer switch. Okay, so DD is there, so it means the EIGRP routing protocol is configured. Okay, now we can come to the D2 and we will see what is the show IP route. You can see here, yeah, the D is also, D mean EIGRP is also configured here. Okay, so this is the point, because if the EIGRP or any routing protocol is configured, in case of EIGRP it show D, in case of OSPF it will display O. Okay, so RIP we have R and so on and so far. Okay, now we will focus on our activity. Verify that each topology has full connectivity by completing the following test. So we will ping from PC1. Okay, we analyze and that is done. So ping from PC1 to PC2, ping from PC3 to PC4, ping from PC5 to PC6. Now we will ping from PC1 to PC first let me go there, PC2, and we will go to the desktop. Okay, we will take this IP, this is PC2 IP. Okay, I will go to the PC1 and I try to ping, sorry, not command, this is the PC1 to PC2. Okay, so I'll write ping. Okay, after that this is the IP 11.2 is the IP address of PC2. So you can see I can ping, so it will take some little bit time, then it start pinging. You can see, so we can ping from PC1 to PC2. So now if you will see IP config, so IP config, so what is the IP address of 10.10? okay, so of PC1. Now I will go to the PC2. Now let me check ping 10.10. okay, I think 10.10. see, so I can also ping from PC2 to PC1. okay, now we need to also check the connectivity between PC3 to PC4. First go to the PC4, go to the desktop, go to this one 11.10, copy this IP, because we need to check the connectivity from PC3 to PC4. we need the IP address. Go to the desktop, go to the command prompt, write a ping and type this command ping 11.10. okay, so it will take some little bit time, request time. Now it is okay, you can see now it is working fine. So now PC1 IP config, and this is the IP address 10.10. let me copy this one and I will check from PC4 to PC3. okay, so you can just simply type ping and check 10.10. yes, it is working fine. So now we will last PC5 to PC6. okay, so PC5 to PC6. so let me go to the PC6 and take the IP address of the PC6 and copy this one, and I will simply go to the PC5 and go to the command prompt and write ping, ping, and simply paste it here, and you can see the connectivity. So it will work. It is it start working. Request timeout first time. Now you can see ping is working fine. So now I will just show you the last thing. What is the last thing here? Yeah, all three example of PCs on different network. Which device is used to provide the communication between the network? Can you tell me the answer of this point? This one. So they are saying in all three example, each PC is on the different network. So this is different network, this is on the different network, this is different network, and this is on the different network. In this case we have the layer 3 switch. Yes, so we enable the routing on multi-layer switch, and we also assign we issue because of that one it is enabled, they are able to communicate with each other. So in this case we have a different network, this PC is on the different network, so we have a router in between. So router, we configure the routing, because of that one they are able to communicate with each other. Okay, and the last point is, why were we able to ping across a network without there being a router? Why were we able to ping across a network without our being a router? Because we enable the routing in MLS, and we also assign the IP address by no switch port command. So because of that one, we are able to ping between a different network. Okay, so now I will just show you all the answer. Please type these answers in your lab 1 lab 1 1.2.1.7 packet tracer activity. So I already typed those answers, so I will show you one by one. You can please pause the video and type these answers in your lab 1 activity. So now I am going to show you this activity, and yeah, this is the activity, and I will show you. So this is the answer, and you will find these are the answer. Please pause the video and you can write these answers in your lab 1 activity. Okay, and these are the things. You can pause the video and write the answers. Okay, so that's all for today, and see you inshallah in next video. If you have any question, please type in the comment below.